Do you think that you have a system in place that if you're in this space, well, actually, I don't know. You've talked about that that you know how to make your show big if you wanted to, but
Mm.
that you don't because I guess you want to have, I guess, quality over quantity on your listener base, which I respect, man. That that's cool. But there's no way stop that you can't stop if it does grow organically really big, and that just means that you're going to get more people, you know, negative, throwing negative spears at you and all that. Does your not kind of giving a shit attitude can that scale up to bigger, or is it right now you feel good where you're at?
Oh, I mean, I always feel good where I'm at, but I obviously I'm in this for me. Right? I started doing this for me. And I'm humbled that other people think that there's something valuable they can get out of it. I am genuinely humbled by that. Um, and maybe that's why they're getting something out of it, because they feel there's an honesty and a genuine quality to what I'm saying, because it's coming from at least a somewhat vulnerable place. The problem with getting big, that there's two ways that happens. You touched on both of them. You can like grift your way into popularity by just giving people what they want to hear. And that's relatively easy. You can do that and get like maybe 20, 30,000 listeners a show, something like that. If you just read the market, this is what I would do if I were selling steak knives, for example. I would make sure that I'm telling people exactly what they want to hear so that I could sell the product. But I'm not trying to tell people what they want to hear on the show. I'm trying to tell people what I want to say, and what I'm trying to learn, I am sharing with them. And I don't expect a lot of people to find that receptive. I mean, maybe they find the idea of it receptive, but so the other route there, and this is my fear, is any of these ideas become mainstream and then they're worth questioning even deeper, right? So if we find that I don't know, MSNBC or Rachel Maddow is talking about post-libertarianism or something 2 years from now, there's genuinely something wrong with post-libertarianism, and it's time to rethink those ideas, right? There's certain things about individuality and really following your heart that they shouldn't be all that agreeable to that many people.
Hold
And
on, hold on. I gotta interrupt. So, but so if it goes mainstream, it's bad.
that's my working theory. Yeah. Yeah. I think anytime you have a large amount of people subscribing to an idea that used to be fringe, I think you should look at it as a suspect idea, because I don't know, we have just seen probably over the course of our lives that 99 point something percent of people just follow. They're just followers. They're never going to have new ideas. They're never going to think for themselves. The reason there's a government is because of people like this, right? And if those people are starting to say your ideas, then it's time for you to have a personal evolution and try to figure out what to do next. And I'm not saying to do that to be contrarian. I'm saying that there's something wrong with the ideas. So first of all, I don't expect a lot of the things that we talk about in this space to go mainstream. On the off chance they did, it would be because the ideas weren't good.
Yeah, is someone's show like like a Rogan show? Is that, do you consider that mainstream? Where those ideas do get some light?
Well, what's interesting about what Joe Rogan does is he's not really trying to sell you an idea, right? He's just he's a focal point for other people to come on and showcase their ideas. And that's I could probably do an episode like that, but I don't know how much I would get out of it. Maybe I could do it secondary to this one. But I like having the conversations that I'm having because they help me grow and learn. I don't think what Joe's doing is that, right? Being a sounding board for other people is certainly an avenue you could take. And I think there's a reason that show is as popular as it is, because he's neutral on most things. And you can see when the few times where he isn't, like how they'll just try to destroy him in the corporate press, because he becomes a threat to their livelihood and anything they can get on him. No, I think that type of show works. He's a very unique individual in walking a balancing act there that I don't think a lot of people, including myself, really have like the the innate ability to do. He's really a very unique gem to humanity that is very hard to duplicate. You almost have to stumble into that organically and like emergently. And for every Joe Rogan, there's however many hundreds of thousands of people that failed miserably at that tact. So, I mean, more power to him, but not my path. Although it would be great to be on the show someday.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, that's for sure. Yeah, earlier you had mentioned about how when someone says something like they say words and they're not clear that it's on them. Is What kind of magic can be played with wordplay, whether it's intentional or not? Because like I said, I'm not very well read, but I can hear pretty good a lot of stuff, and sometimes I can hear in between like letters and stuff. But I always feel there's a lot of I'm saying magic because I wanted to kind of segue into some of the other stuff I want to get into you with, but you know, is there a lot of that going on, or is it just the way people talk sometimes, and or do they have intention? Like when someone says, "Oh, I didn't understand that," you said, "Well, I don't care." Like, it's not. Do you feel that maybe sometimes you want to make it a little clear so that way, or I'm just kind of asking, like, because sometimes to be honest, like when you put some stuff, it makes me think, and I try to follow. And I'm not saying that you're doing magic with words, but it's probably just my lack of like trying to understand your style more, and that's probably why I'm having you on.
Yeah.
So I guess you said you don't feel responsibility to that, but is there any magic are you playing any magic with your words a little bit?
Well, there is a difference between somebody coming at you in good faith with genuine curiosity that wants to work through ideas that you feel like you could trust having a conversation with. I would say you are in that category, right? When it comes to what you would call magic there, which I would say is a proper term, but magic is really just messaging and marketing. I think you'll find the reason that people word things the way they do on places like Twitter is a sort of a gatekeeping exercise to filter out the people who are coming at you in bad faith, who are trying to take you down, who are trying to claw their way into your brain and your heart and make you unhappy and have you follow a path of chaos. So in the way that you word things very much influences the type of people you're going to attract. And for everybody who's come and said, this is a word salad, or it's cryptic, or I don't understand, or can you break it down for me, or fuck this, there's a you who's come along and genuinely wanted to have a conversation. And if you're wording something kind of magically, it helps you separate the wheat from the chaff, right? And I think a lot of people do that naturally, whether they know they're doing it or not. You follow somebody like Cyprian on Twitter, formerly Vin Armani, and people will say, why don't you just come right out and tell me what to do? And it's like because you're asking that question is why he's not doing that, because you're not worthy of the information, because you haven't taken the time to be responsible enough for yourself to look inward and try to figure it out. Now, there is a point at which you can just double down on being an asshole and not and maybe chase away people who are coming at you in good faith by reading their responses improperly. I try really hard not to do that. And I know some people will double down, and I find that off-putting. Like I don't like personal attacks really, unless they're coming directly at me, in which case we're going to have a problem. But yeah, it's a gatekeeping exercise. It helps filter people out, and you have to be very careful when you're doing it that you try not to lose as many of the good ones as you can through that process of selection.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, it's like I don't know if you've ever like been to like court in a court case and been in a jury and all that or anything like that. But man, some of like even though I'm saying magic and the way we talk about it, those judges, man, they have some magical powers, man. They dress kind of weird like that, and you go to this court summons, they use these words that are very, and then everybody comes in and all rise, and everybody, like, there's a lot of like magical traditions and occult stuff going on there. Can we kind of get into that? I know you've said that you got into it. You've mentioned before in some of your podcasts that you got into it. You had mentioned that your family was very free about like, hey, get into whatever you kind of want, but can you kind of talk a little bit about that? Because a lot of my audience that are like the primos and cousins, they're automatically gonna go to like, this all the the cross and go ¿qué pasa? But doesn't have to be that. You were just curious about that. Can you kind of get into that a little bit?
Well, let me talk about the judges and the courts and stuff, right? So human beings have, it seems to me, some kind of innate biological programming toward religion, toward form, function, myths, traditions, certain societal structures, stories, right? And these things play out time and time again. And even post Enlightenment, we're only 500 years into the Enlightenment. We've seen the rise of the Church of Woke, right, which is just another religion. Fauci's there, one of their priests, and the mask is a talisman, and the vaccine is a baptism. It's all the same rituals. And so if you look at something like the justice system, all of those rituals, it's no different than the ancients having their shaman dance around and try to make sure the rain comes, for the harvest, right? And we like to think in this society right now in the Western culture that we're so enlightened that we've moved past all of these aboriginal backwards ideas of the ancients, and we're just performing the same rituals, but we're performing them in a way that doesn't include the point of the ritual in the first place, right? Which is a connection to the mystical, is a connection to the Most High. We've taken the goal out, but we're still performing the rituals. So there's no wonder why we just went through the past 18 months, in the world, because people are trying to fill a God-shaped hole in their heart with shiny shit, and it's not going to work. So yes, we're going through the rituals, but we've lost the reason why. And we're scrambling around, clawing at the soil, trying to find the why, right? And we're replacing the why with a really bad one. Like the good why, we're replacing with a terrible why. And the second part of your question, I think you might have to narrow down a little bit. You said like the people might be given this or whatever.
Oh, no.
What did you mean by that?
Well, actually, we could kind of riff on this a little bit. I think I heard you say that in the same vein that taking the vaccine is like baptism, having a baptismal. I think I heard you say that in a pod, right? Can you kind of talk a little bit more on that idea?
Yeah. So just kind of saying it again, like the rituals that people have gone through in the past, right? Like the whole idea of the coming of age. But let's go back to like the ancient biblical times, or the ancient Egyptians, or the Aztecs or the Incas, right? You go through all of these rituals when you're younger in this coming of age thing, right? To go through pain and trial and tribulation and build you up to be a strong human being that can face the inevitable destruction of the world around you. Like there's a reason that you do that. And they didn't have facts and logic back then. It was all mythos, right? It's all myths. And myths don't mean lies. They just mean a story. So the stories were told and the rituals were performed as a way of getting you in tune with this great ether, whether it's the Brahmin or Yahweh or, Nirvana or whatever. And we still do that now. We still do the rituals, right? We still go through all of the things. And I'm just making an it's not a silly analogy. I think it's a pretty good analogy. If you look at like the traditions of Christianity, when you go through the catechism, you take the sacraments, you finally get confirmed, right? It starts with baptism when you're younger. You can see a very analogous process happening with the Church of Woke today. And, maybe these are the same people that will say walking around with rosary beads, saying the Lord's Prayer is silly superstition, or, oh, you really think the sky fairy is up there looking down on you? Meanwhile, they're wearing 3 masks. They're jabbing fucking chemicals into their arms, and they're worshiping at the altar of modern science and medicine. It's the same cycle, right? It's the same ritual. It's just being performed in a completely empty and materialistic way.